Hey, welcome to the Journey Church. We're an online church for out-of-the-box people. You're invited to come along with us as we travel throughout North America and we connect lessons from the scriptures with the amazing places and people that we encounter along the way. Whether you found us online or we connected with you in person, our goal is the same: to help you grow in your relationship with Jesus and have confidence that you're actually following Him. You're really being a Christian. We're glad you're with us. All right, you guys, today we are going somewhere awesome, someplace that very few people have ever even seen in the winter. People have gone there in the summertime. I've been there in the summertime. It's difficult to get to then. It's really difficult to get to in the winter. This place we're going is an old abandoned dam that failed. In fact, this year marks 100 years since this dam was built. It took 2 years to build. Over $100,000 at the time, which is nearly $2 million investment today. And after all of that, it actually never ever produced any electricity because it failed the very first time that all of the water built up behind it on the spring runoff of 1925. So we're gonna go in, we're gonna see it, and we're gonna connect this place with a lesson from the scriptures about this idea that God is willing to go places nobody else is willing to go, to see people that nobody else is willing to talk to. And so I want you to join me. Let's go. It's awesome. All right, here we go. We've got 4 miles of railroad tracks and snow-packed road to push our way into what is a pretty amazing location. Gonna have to earn it today. So this morning I was thinking I probably should throw a first aid kit in the bag just in case. Not gonna need it, of course. And shocker, good times. I went to catch my drone, which I've done dozens of times. Normally it reacts and moves up, and I anticipated the reaction and put my hand up too fast and managed to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 nice slice and dices. So I'm gonna dig into some Band-Aids, get patched up, and back on the road into this epic location. Whew. It's about right now I'm gonna start to really question what in the world was I thinking coming all the way back in here. Whew. Well, I have started my way down in this steep slot canyon here, and it drops off really sharp right behind me. And at the bottom is the Moye River, which is flowing almost like spring breakup right now because of these warm temps. So normally this is a really difficult scramble in the summer, and when it's covered in snow and ice and you can't see what's underneath your feet, it's even more interesting. So I'm gonna keep carrying on. Let's see if we can get a little bit of footage as we go in and try not to crash. Hey, be sure to subscribe here on YouTube and go over to jointhejourneychurch.com to learn more about how you can join the journey and follow us on these crazy adventures. All right, if right now you're thinking that going in there is probably a little bit sketch, you're probably right. That's why I gotta try it. I'll see you on the inside. Woo! Geronimo, woohoo! Woo! I'm in. Hopefully I can reach those. Ay, ay, ay. All right. One camera. Now, see if I can get the other one out. Thank goodness for GoPros. They're tough. Depending on where you've lived, all this snow and cold may be totally normal for you, or maybe it's just verifying for you that you are still living in the right place because you live somewhere warm. But regardless of where you live, I bet that a lot of you can actually relate to this place, right? Not the ice and cold, but a broken thing, a thing that's not doing what it was designed to do. And if you're really honest with yourself, I bet you have thought of yourself this way at some point. You've probably thought of yourself as maybe too far gone or beyond repair, out of God's reach. You've probably had those thoughts validated when people that you thought were your friends just ended up ghosting you, or when you hear your family talking about you and about your mistakes instead of actually talking to you. The truth is, I think all of us have felt like we've messed up at some point in our life, right? You've done something you shouldn't have done. You've said things that you can't take back, and you get that pit in your stomach, that gut feeling that it's not fixable, that you're not fixable. Well, as hard as it was getting here, and it was hard, I wanted to come to a place like this to help you connect the dots with what I'm going to tell you next. Listen, this is really important. No person and no place is out of bounds for God. Do you understand that? Do you hear that? Like, no person and no place is out of bounds for God. No matter what you've done, no matter what you've said, no matter where you are, you need to know that seriously, no person, I'm saying it again and again and again because you need to let it sink in. No person and no place is out of bounds for God. That might not be resonating with you personally, but it might be drawing up people in your mind that you care about, that you feel like maybe are too far gone, that they're never going to come back, and you've almost given up hope on them. And you need to be reminded, no person and no place is too far gone for God. Jesus knew that the Pharisees heard that he was baptizing and making more disciples than John. Though Jesus himself didn't baptize any of them, his disciples did. So he left Judea and returned to Galilee. It says that he had to go through Samaria on the way. Whoa, wait, stop, pause, time out. We gotta like totally pause right here. He had to go through Samaria. We've got to do a quick roll back the clock and learn a little bit about Samaria. So, once upon a time, long before Jesus' time, like 700 years before Jesus' time, the northern kingdom of Israel was conquered by a place called Assyria. Many of the Jews fled Israel, going to the surrounding countries, very much like we've seen in the news in recent times with people fleeing Ukraine to escape the danger there. And then other people were captured by the Assyrians. But some of the Jews, they stayed in Israel, and then over time they blended in with those Assyrians that had captured their territory, and they sort of blended together with this new Assyrian culture. Many married Assyrians, and it was from these two people groups blending together that the Samaritans were formed, drawing the name from the region north of Israel that they actually settled in. The Jews that left Israel and stayed true to their Jewish bloodlines were disgusted with the Samaritans. They thought of them as half-breeds and unclean. But the Samaritans also wanted nothing to do with the Jews. In fact, over time, a bitter rivalry formed, if you will, between them. The Jews claimed that they were worshiping God the right way and that their temple in Jerusalem was the only place to worship God. But the Samaritans claimed that they were worshiping God the right way and that their location was the right place to worship Him. When I think about the rivalry between the Jews and the Samaritans. For some reason, I always think of the Hatfields and McCoys and the old Wild West shootouts, right? I don't think they were probably like that, but that's just what comes to mind. So now that you have a better idea about what's going on between the Jews and the Samaritans, you'll realize that it was a really shocking thing that John wrote when he said that he had to go through Samaria on the way, right? Jews didn't go through Samaria. And not only did they not want to see a Samaritan, but there's stories recorded about this idea that they didn't even want to get this nasty Samaritan dirt on their sandals. All right, back to it. Verse 4. He had to go through Samaria on the way. Eventually, he came to a Samaritan village of Sychar, near the field that Jacob gave to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus was tired from a long walk, and so he sat wearily beside the well about noontime. Soon, a Samaritan woman came to draw some water, and Jesus says to her, "Please, give me a drink." He was alone at the time because his disciples had gone into town to buy some food. Well, the woman was surprised because Jews refused to have anything to do with Samaritans. And so she said to Jesus, "You're a Jew, and I'm a Samaritan woman. Why are you asking me for a drink?" And Jesus replied to her, "If you only knew the gift that God has for you and who you're speaking to, you would ask me, and I would give you living water." "But sir, you don't have a rope or a bucket," she said, "and this well is very deep. Where would you get this living water? And besides, do you think you're greater than our ancestor Jacob, who gave us this well? How can you offer better water than he and his sons and his animals enjoyed?" Well, Jesus replied, "Anyone who drinks this water will soon become thirsty again. But those who drink the water that I give will never be thirsty again. It becomes a fresh, bubbling spring from within them. It brings eternal life. Please, sir," the woman said, "give me this water, and then I'll never be thirsty again, and I won't have to come here to get water." "Go and get your husband," Jesus told her. "Well, I don't have a husband," the woman replied. Jesus said, "You're right. You don't have a husband. For you have had 5 husbands, and you aren't even married to the man that you're living with now. You certainly spoke the truth." "Sir," the woman said, "you must be a prophet. So tell me, why is it that you Jews insist that Jerusalem is the only place to worship, while we Samaritans claim that it's here at Mount Gerizim where our ancestors worshiped?" Well, Jesus replied, "Believe me, dear woman, the time is coming when it will no longer matter whether you worship the Father on this mountain or in Jerusalem. You Samaritans know very little about the one that you worship, while we Jews know all about him. For salvation comes through the Jews. But the time is coming, indeed it's here now, when true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. The Father is looking for those who will worship him that way. For God is spirit, so those who worship him must worship him in spirit and truth." Well, the woman said, "I know the Messiah is coming, the one who is called Christ, and when he comes, he will explain everything to us." And then Jesus told her, "I am the Messiah." Just then, the disciples came back and they were shocked to find him talking to a woman, but none of them had the nerve to ask, I mean, "What do you want with her?" or "Why are you talking to her?" The woman left her water jar beside the well and ran back to the village, telling everyone, "Come and see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could he possibly be the Messiah?" So the people came streaming from the village to see him. Oh, man, there is so much good stuff happening in this story. But I want to remind us of the why question, right? The thing that we're asking. Why did Jesus go to a place like Samaria, way out of his way and out of bounds, and talk to somebody like this woman who most people wouldn't even look at, right? Why would he go there to her to reveal for the very first time that he was the Messiah? He purposely went there, completely out of bounds, to a person that was essentially off limits in her culture and her village, to reveal who he was to her. Why? Let's get set in and find some place to unpack that. Come on. Do you notice the back and forth between them? Right out of the gate, she brings up that rivalry, right? You're a Jew, I'm a Samaritan. We're not supposed to talk. Remember, your people hate my people? Jesus doesn't take the bait. He's essentially saying, you think you know me, but you don't. If you really knew who I was, you'd be the one asking me for water, and I would give you living water, which is really an interesting thing to say to a woman coming to get water out of a well. You see, in the language that they were speaking, which was Hebrew, there aren't a lot of words to describe water. It's desert country. There's not a lot of water. And so the phrase living water sounds kind of funny when we hear it in English, but it was a normal phrase in Hebrew, and it just meant running water or flowing water, much like this water behind me here. So she's looking in this well with stagnant water, just sitting in there in it. And he comes along and says, if you knew who you were talking to, you'd be the one to be asking me to give you fresh running water. Sounds pretty appealing, right? Sounds pretty interesting. So you notice her response, though, right back to the rivalry. Who do you think you are? Do you think that you're better than our ancestors who dug this well, right? Do you think you can offer me better water than him? You can sort of sense and hear it in her voice. But again, Jesus doesn't take the bait. He doesn't get into an argument with her. He just keeps telling her more. It's like he just sort of keeps pulling the curtain back a little bit more and a little bit more each time. He's like, listen, nothing against your ancestors that dug this well, but all I'm saying is the truth, right? Everybody that drinks from this well is just going to end up thirsty again. But I'm trying to tell you about a new kind of water, a water that I have to give. And anybody that drinks the water that I offer won't ever be thirsty again. In fact, it's going to bubble up from within you like a fresh spring, giving you eternal life. And so she's getting really curious now, right? Okay, I don't care who you are. I can ignore all that. I need to know more. So how can I get this living water? Do you have any idea how wonderful it would be to never have to come to this well again? Like, it would be so amazing. And then there's this thing where things just get really interesting. It's as if Jesus knows. All right, she's interested. Now let's move past the surfacey stuff and let's get to what's really going on. Let's get to the meat of this lady's life. So he tells her, okay, go get your husband. And she's like, I don't have one. And he's like, you're right. You don't have one. You've had 5. And the guy that you're with right now, you're not even married to. You guys are just shacking up, right? Whoa, gut check, right? And look at how she responds. It's like she let her guard down for a second, and she finally sets that old rivalry stuff aside. But now she knows that he must be a prophet, right? And do you see what she wants to know? She says, okay, sir, so you must be a prophet. So tell me, Jews say that Jerusalem is the right place to worship, and Samaritans claim that Mount Gerizim is the right place. So which is it, right? Do you catch what she's asking, though? She's not asking about which place is the correct place to worship. Really what she's asking is all about back to the rivalry. What she's really saying is, okay, so obviously you know things about me. You must be somebody that God reveals things to. So then what I really want to know is who's right, the Jews or the Samaritans? And I love how Jesus responds. He's like, okay, you want to know the truth? You want to know who's right? Neither. The time has come when it's no longer about where you worship God. It's not about the place. It's not about your place or our place. Everything's changing. And he's like, I'm bringing a new way to worship, a way that everyone, anyone, any place can worship God in spirit and truth. And it's starting to really tug on her heart. She's remembering the lessons that she learned growing up, stories about the one that God would send who was called the Messiah. And she knew that when he came, he would explain everything, right? No more questioning, no more guessing about who is right, who's in, who's out, who's doing it right, who's messing up. To which Jesus does something so incredibly profound. For the first time ever, he tells this outcast Samaritan woman something that he hasn't told anyone yet, not even his disciples. He looks at her and he tells her plainly, I am the Messiah. Imagine the electricity in the air. It's one of those moments when their eyes met and locked, and it seemed like every single hair on her body was just rising up on the back of her neck, filled with this sense of awe and amazement. She can't even muster a sound. And right there in the middle of that moment, the disciples come rolling back in. And the way John writes this account, you get a sense that they were all pretty shocked too. Not only shocked that their Jewish rabbi was here by himself with the Samaritan woman, but that they sort of interrupted something, that they walked into the middle of something where they seemed to be locked into a pretty serious conversation. They could feel it when they walked up. And John said that they were so nervous, none of them had the guts to even ask, what the heck is going on right here, right? And right then, before they even say anything, the woman just drops her water jars and runs back to the village telling everybody, come and see the one that told me everything I ever did. I think he could be the one. I think he could be the Messiah. And people respond and they come streaming out to see if Jesus could be the one. So, for the first time that Jesus is ever going to reveal that he is the Messiah, he goes to a place that was basically off limits to Jews, to talk with a lady who was definitely off limits. Why? First off, I think God is a God of restoration, right? He came to restore our relationship with him, but he also cares about our relationship with each other. And I have to believe that going to Samaria in the beginning of his ministry to reveal himself to a Samaritan woman was like God extending a great big olive branch to the Samaritan saying, look, I'm about to reveal my son. I want my people to be reconciled, right? I want my kids to reunite and to get back together, right? To settle their differences and get unified about who Jesus is. Beyond that, I also think that Jesus was revealing some really important things about his Father. He's offering living water to everyone. No matter where you are or what you've done, you're not out of bounds for God. You actually might feel like a Samaritan. Maybe that you don't feel like you really fit in with the religious people around you. You have an interest in God, but it seems like there's so much pressure to pick the right denomination or the right church or to worship the right way. And that rivalry that you've felt between churches or between different religious groups, it just turns you off. Listen, Jesus is telling you, you're right to feel off about that. He said it plain and simple 2,000 years ago. It's not about the place that you worship. It's not about picking the right church. It's about coming to terms with the fact that Jesus is offering you living water. He's giving you a lifeline, a way out of the life that you're living where no matter what you do or how hard you work or how much money you make or how hard you try in your marriage or how hard you try with your kids, it still feels like you have to try harder tomorrow to do more. Listen, Jesus is offering you a new life, one where you'll experience a sense of fullness and a life that's bubbling up from within you that you can't get any other way. Experiencing this new life and this new sense of purpose and fulfillment starts with laying down your plans, admitting that you don't have all the answers, and accepting Jesus' invitation to follow him. At first, it takes a lot of faith, believing that Jesus is who he says he is and he can give you what he says he can, which is what Paul wrote to some new believers in a church in Ephesus. God saved you by his grace when you believed, and you can't take credit for this. It's a gift from God. Salvation is not a reward for the good things that you have done, so none of us can boast about it, for we are God's masterpiece. He has created us anew in Christ Jesus so we can do the good things that he planned for us long ago. I love this. God offers the free gift of salvation, actually giving us new life in Christ, and not for no reason, not just, hey, you're saved, check, the box is checked, right? No, it's new life and a new purpose and mission to do the good things that he had planned for you long ago. I mean, how cool is that? If you're new to all this stuff, that might sound a little weird, and maybe you have lots more questions. And I just want you to know that that's totally okay. Questions are great. That's what we're here for. We want to help you, act like a guide to come alongside you and walk with you and help you keep learning how to embrace this new life that God gave you and have confidence that you're doing it right? That you're actually a Christ follower. Hey, if you like this out-of-the-box approach to learning the Bible, be sure to subscribe to our channel, turn on alerts so that you never miss another episode. We've got a lot of great content on our YouTube channel and more content coming out every Sunday, 5 o'clock Pacific time, 8 o'clock Eastern time, and then everything is always available 24/7 on demand. And you can find out more about us and how to get involved at jointhejourneychurch.com. Back on top, way out of breath. That is steep, slippery, awesome exercise. Getting out of there. Now, about a quarter mile or so of really deep snow, and then I'm back to easy walking on the railroad tracks on my way home.